Linda is 62. It is 2026. She has just retired. Her portfolio is $780,000. Her spending target is $55,000 per year. She claims Social Security immediately. Her monthly benefit is $1,950. That is $23,400 per year. She tells herself, "I've worked long enough." But here is the hidden variable. If she had waited until 67, her monthly benefit would have been roughly $2,700. That is $32,400 per year. A $9,000 annual difference every year for life. The decision is permanent. Once claimed at 62, the income floor is locked in. So before we project forward, let's examine year one. Linda needs $55,000 per year. She receives $23,400 from Social Security. That means she must withdraw $31,600 from her portfolio. $31,600 divided by $780,000 is just over 4%. 4% is not reckless, but it is structurally different from 3%. Now imagine she waited until 67. Her benefit would be $32,400. To reach $55,000, she would withdraw $22,600 from her portfolio. That is roughly a 3% withdrawal rate. Lower pressure, higher guaranteed income, greater margin. Now layer inflation. We assume 3% inflation annually. Healthcare inflation at 5%. That means her spending will not stay $55,000. It will gradually rise. If her guaranteed income is lower from the beginning, her portfolio must absorb more of that inflation pressure. This is the first distortion. It is not dramatic. It is mathematical. Now consider longevity. If Linda lives to 90, that is 28 years of retirement. 28 years of compounding differences. The question is not, did she receive checks earlier? The question is, what did claiming at 62 change by age 90? Before moving to 10-year projections, consider something subtle. The $9,000 annual difference in benefits over 20 years is $180,000, even without market compounding. But she receives 5 extra years of payments by claiming early, so we must account for that. 5 years at $23,400 is roughly $117,000 received early. So the real comparison is not simple subtraction. It is break-even timing. At what age does delaying surpass early claiming? That break-even often lands in the early 80s, which means if she lives beyond that, delaying would have paid more lifetime income. Now we project forward 10 years, and this is where the divergence begins to show. Let's move Linda forward 10 years. She is now 72. We assume 5% average annual return, 3% inflation, 5% healthcare inflation. First, the stable return scenario. If she claimed at 62, she withdrew roughly $31,600 in year one. Each year after, that withdrawal increases gradually with inflation. Under steady 5% returns, her portfolio at age 72 would sit near approximately $680,000. Now consider the delayed claiming path. If she waited until 67, she would have received no Social Security for 5 years, but her portfolio would have continued compounding. $780,000 at 5% for 5 years becomes approximately $995,000. From 67 to 72, her withdrawals would be lower because her benefit is higher, under steady returns. Her portfolio at 72 would be roughly $890,000. Pause and compare. $680,000 versus $890,000. That is already more than a $200,000 gap, and we are only 10 years into retirement. Now let's account for her cumulative Social Security income. At 62, she began receiving benefits immediately. Over 10 years, she collected approximately $234,000. If she had delayed until 67, she would have received benefits for only 5 of those 10 years, roughly $162,000. So yes, in the first decade, the early claiming path receives more total Social Security dollars. But here is the structural shift. From age 72 onward, the delayed path now receives $9,000 more per year. That income difference continues for life. Now introduce mild stress. Assume the market declines 10% in Linda's first retirement year. $780,000 becomes $702,000. She still withdraws $31,600. That locks in a deeper early drawdown. Under that stress scenario, her 10-year portfolio could fall closer to $590,000. Compare that to the delayed path. If markets decline while she is still working and not withdrawing, the compounding recovery is stronger. At 72, even under stress, the delayed path may remain near $800,000. Now the divergence approaches $200,000 or more, not because of speculation, because of withdrawal timing. This is where the distortion becomes visible. The early claiming decision permanently lower her income floor. Lower income floor increases portfolio reliance. Higher reliance amplifies sequence risk. Sequence risk magnifies long-term erosion. By year 10, the divergence is measurable. By year 15, it accelerates. And by year 25, it becomes structural. Now ask yourself this. If your guaranteed income could be $9,000 higher every year starting at 67, would that change how you experience market volatility? We move next to 15-year projections, because this is where compounding begins to separate the paths more clearly. Let's move Linda forward another 5 years. She is now 77. 15 years into retirement, the compounding effects are no longer subtle. Under the stable 5% return assumption, if she claimed at 62, her portfolio would likely sit near approximately $560,000. Under the delayed path, her portfolio would likely remain closer to $775,000. The divergence is now approaching $200,000 in portfolio value alone. Now include cumulative Social Security income. At 62, she received payments for 15 years. That totals roughly $351,000. If she delayed until 67, she received payments for 10 years. That totals roughly $324,000. So at age 77, cumulative Social Security totals are relatively close. But from this point forward, the delayed path continues receiving $9,000 more per year for life. And because benefits adjust for inflation, that higher base compounds upward annually. Now introduce healthcare inflation. We assumed 5% annual healthcare growth. Medicare premiums, supplemental coverage, prescription costs, and out-of-pocket expenses rise faster than general inflation. If Linda claimed at 62, her lower income floor means more of those healthcare increases must be absorbed by portfolio withdrawals. Higher withdrawals reduce compounding. Reduced compounding increases long-term fragility. Now layer in Medicare IRMAA thresholds. Higher taxable withdrawals can push income above certain brackets. That increases Medicare Part B and Part D premiums. Those premium increases are effectively a tax on retirement income. If her guaranteed income were higher, she might withdraw less from tax-deferred accounts. Lower withdrawals could keep her below IRMAA thresholds. That interaction compounds quietly over time. This is how a $9,000 annual difference becomes more than $9,000 in structural impact. It affects portfolio withdrawals, taxable income, healthcare premiums, longevity stress, confidence level. Now extend projection further. If Linda lives to 90, that is 28 years of retirement, from 77 onward, she would receive the lower benefit for 13 additional years. 13 years multiplied by 9,000 is $117,000 of additional guaranteed income she did not lock in. Add that to the structural portfolio divergence. Now the total impact approaches or exceeds $120,000 and continues widening. And this assumes no catastrophic event, no prolonged market downturn, no major health shock, just steady, conservative assumptions. Pause here. If you expect to live beyond 85, does claiming early still feel like a small trade-off? Or does it begin to resemble a permanent structural haircut? Now we move to the final projection, age 90, and the full answer to the central question, what did this decision change over 25 years? Let's move Linda forward to age 90. 28 years after she claimed Social Security at 62, under steady 5% returns and 3% inflation, her portfolio in the early claiming path would likely sit near approximately $350,000 to $400,000. Under the delayed claiming path, her portfolio would likely remain closer to $550,000 to $600,000. That is a $200,000 structural difference in portfolio value alone. Now calculate cumulative Social Security. At 62, she collected benefits for 28 years. At 67, she collected for 23 years. Early claiming gave her 5 additional years of payments, roughly $117,000 received earlier. But from 67 onward, the delayed path received $9,000 more per year. Over 23 years, that equals roughly $207,000 of additional guaranteed income. Subtract the early 5-year advantage. The net guaranteed income advantage of delaying is approximately $90,000. Add the portfolio divergence. The combined structural impact approaches or exceeds $120,000. Under stress scenarios, it can exceed $200,000. This is not speculation. It is compounding arithmetic. Now introduce stress. Assume 2 negative years early in retirement, a 10% decline followed by flat recovery. Under early claiming, withdrawals continue during downturn. Portfolio erosion accelerates. By age 90, the early path may fall below $300,000. The delayed path, withdrawing less, may still remain near $500,000. The gap widens, not because of risk-taking, because of timing. This is a channel signature question. What did claiming at 62 change over 25 years? It changed her guaranteed income floor, her withdrawal rate, her exposure to sequence risk, her vulnerability to healthcare inflation, her flexibility under tax thresholds, her longevity resilience. It did not cause immediate hardship. It created long-term structural softness. Now, consider the psychological layer. At 75, both versions of Linda may appear comfortable. At 82, both may still manage. But at 88 or 90, one version carries thinner margins, more dependence on markets, less flexibility for unexpected medical costs, more anxiety during downturns. The other version carries stronger guaranteed income, lower withdrawal pressure, higher confidence. That difference compounds quietly. Now the decision rules. First, before claiming Social Security, calculate your break-even age. Understand how long you must live for delaying to outperform. Second, model retirement to age 90, not 80. Longevity changes everything. Third, stress test your first 5 retirement years. Sequence risk is most dangerous early. Fourth, compare guaranteed income floors, not just portfolio balances. Higher income floors reduce structural fragility. Fifth, do not make irreversible decisions without 25-year projections. Social Security claiming cannot be undone. Now return to the central question. Was claiming at 62 catastrophic? No. But over 25 years, it likely reduced lifetime Structural Security by $120,000 or more. The cost was not emotional. It was mathematical. So here's the final decision-based question. If delaying Social Security could strengthen your long-term financial structure by 6 figures, would you still claim at 62? Or would you reconsider the timing? That is the ledger. Calm, measured, long-term, and that is what retirement decisions deserve.